Welcome to the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for Wednesday, January 3rd. This is Jana McGuire. Over the last 30 days, we've seen very similar pattern occur across the Great Basin, with precipitation mainly focused across the northern half of the area and drier conditions over the southern areas. However, even the precipitation we've seen over the northern half of the Great Basin has been well below normal for the time of year. Also, some areas of southern Nevada, the Arizona Strip, and southern Utah have not only been dry for the last 30 days, they've also been dry for the last 60 to over 90 days. Looking at the last snowfall over the last 72 hours, no snowfall across the area with dry conditions. However, we still do have the deepest snow depth, again where those storms have been focusing the precipitation, up across central Idaho, into eastern Idaho and Wyoming, with some snowfall still in the higher elevations of the Uintas and the northern Wasatch and into the northern Sierra. But again, the highest amounts are up further north. Now looking at the satellite loop from this morning, you can see the ridge of high pressure is now being replaced by an area of low pressure moving in off the west coast. This will allow for some increasing winds in parts of the Sierra, as well as bring some precipitation to the Sierra, into western Nevada, and into northern portions of the Great Basin over the next 24 to 36 hours. Still very dry conditions will continue over the southern areas of the Great Basin, but that will be changing as we go through the next week. As we go through today, the ridge of high pressure that's been over the Great Basin will be moving eastward as low pressure, again off the west coast, approaches. This will bring some precipitation initially to California and into far western Nevada as we move through today and especially into the tonight period. And then as we move into Thursday, that precipitation will spread eastward. Looking at the ventilation index, still under this ridge of high pressure today, poor dispersion is expected in all areas of the Great Basin. Looking at the transport winds today, again under that ridge, very light winds region-wide, along with low mixing heights with the exception of moderate mixing heights as you move further south into far southern Nevada, the Arizona Strip, and far southern Utah. As we move into Thursday, this area of low pressure pushes that precipitation mainly over the northern third of the area, with still continued dry conditions further south dominated by the ridge of high pressure and generally warm temperatures. Looking at the ventilation index, again, poor dispersion continues as that system slides to the north quickly as we move through the day on Thursday, and by Thursday afternoon, again, that system will be moving by to the north. The only exception will be slightly better dispersion as you move into the Sierra, the high elevations, as the winds will be a little bit breezier ahead of that system. Again, looking at the transport winds on Thursday, still do see again some remnants both ahead and as that system passes by of gusty winds in the Sierra. But again, much of the Great Basin, with the exception of the Snake River Plain, will see very light winds and again very low mixing heights, with the exception of the very far south and over the Sierra, which will be in more of the moderate range. As we move into Friday, we still have some precipitation lingering in the north and yet another wave of moisture starting to move into western areas as well. So we have transitioned now from our very dry December to really moving into a wetter pattern as we go into the month of January. Dispersion will also be improving, especially over southern and western Nevada and the high elevations of the Sierra, as well as parts of the higher elevations of Utah. Transport winds, you can see, have increased in the high elevations of the Sierra into western and northwest Nevada, as well as into some parts of central Utah. Mixing heights are also starting to come up and are only really poor over northern and far northeastern areas of the basin and have improved somewhat over western and southern areas. Looking at the forecast clearing index for Utah, again under these lighter winds today and tomorrow, we will see very low clearing indices, but they will be increasing, especially in the higher elevations of the Wasatch and the Central Mountains as we move into Friday. Looking at the forecast amount of precipitation over the next 3 days, the highest amounts will be focused over California, the Northwest, and into the Sierra. However, we will see some lighter amounts spill over into western Nevada and up into Idaho. Now looking a little bit further ahead towards the weekend, we do finally see some moisture starting to move into southern and eastern areas of the Great Basin that have been largely deprived of any moisture over the last 2 to 3 months. We also will see increased dispersion, especially across Nevada, as those winds increase somewhat and mixing heights increase, but still relatively low over eastern areas. The one thing of note about these storms moving through during the early part of January is they are fairly warm. Snow levels will be high, generally above 6, 7, and 8,000 feet as you move across the basin, with rain showers generally in the lower elevations. So again, we will continue with these warmer conditions with these storms, but we will at least see some increasing moisture. Looking into Sunday, the system that moves across the southern areas now moves to the east, and we have another storm generally targeting north up into Idaho. Fairly good dispersion is expected on Sunday over parts of Nevada, the Arizona Strip, and Utah, with poor dispersion further north. By Monday, yet another system starts to target southern areas, so again, we are looking for that increase in moisture in areas that have been largely deprived recently. However, we will see generally light wind flow, therefore poor dispersion is expected on Monday region-wide. As that next system approaches, pushing moisture not only into southern areas but also into western and northern areas as we move through next week, we will see dispersion increase over western and southern areas of Nevada as those winds do increase ahead of that low. Otherwise, poor dispersion further east, at least for another day. Looking at forecast amounts of precipitation from early Saturday morning through early Monday morning, and you can see kind of a spattering of areas of precipitation above 1/4 of an inch, affecting parts of Nevada, Utah, and up into Idaho especially, and parts of the Sierra. But as the week goes on, past Monday morning, we'll also see additional amounts of precipitation. Looking a little bit further ahead at the 8 to 14 day outlook, taking us into the middle of the month, again continuing with these warmer temperatures really across the west, but also that transition to above normal precipitation, not only in the west, but really across the continental U.S. That concludes our briefing for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Otherwise, check for the latest updates on Friday.